Hi folks, I'm Andrew and welcome back to my channel. Over the past few months we've been talking about this whole issue of fatherlessness. We've looked at the cause of fatherlessness and we've agreed that fatherlessness has destroyed our homes and our societies. And now we're in a situation, we're in a place in our society where fatherlessness has become a disease and no one seems to care. And we go about our regular business, our regularly scheduled program, and we don't give fatherlessness a second thought. But the reality is fatherlessness has destroyed our homes, and has destroyed our families, it's killing our communities, and it's destroying our nation from within. And so we realize that there are many people or many groups of people involved in this whole disease of fatherlessness. Now, I had a guy approach me to talk to me, and he was saying he was watching the podcast that we've been doing over the past few weeks, and he likes the information that's been disseminated so far. But he told me that there was one aspect of fatherlessness that he didn't hear me talk about. And he mentioned that this aspect or this thing that also can help be a cause of fatherlessness was the fact that the law, in a way, depending on where you are, the law can help to encourage fatherlessness. So I was confused. I didn't understand what he was saying. And so he explained to me his situation, his personal situation with this whole issue of fatherlessness. He explained to me that he and a lady got together, liked each other, had sex, and they had a baby. And things didn't go well with the relationship, and so they decided to split up. Now, the lady took him to court for child support, and it was during that time, or during that trial, if you want to call it a trial, or that court matter, that he was told some things that really hurt him. He was told by the judge that she was giving him 2 days to spend with his child. That's on the weekends. And after issuing this decree, he said the judge told him he should be thankful that he was getting that much. And so he was wondering why he couldn't spend more time with his child. And so he asked the judge why it was not possible to spend more time with his child. And the judge told him because he had no reproductive rights to that child. He had no rights to that child. And when he told me this, I was baffled. I'm like, what do you mean you have no rights to the child? Didn't you have a part in conceiving that child? You see, a woman cannot have a child by herself. But he said he was told that this is the law, that if you're not married, a man has no reproductive rights to a child. And so if a judge is lenient or merciful and give you 2 or 3 days with your child to spend with your child, you should be thankful, because as far as the law is concerned, you have no rights to that child. And so after he told me this story, I started to dig more into this. I started to talk to more guys about this issue because, like I said, I never heard about something like this before. And so I started speaking to a lot of guys who were single guys, single guys who had children, probably some of them with women they were still with, or some with women the relationship didn't work out, so they went their separate ways. I even spoke to a lot of divorced guys, and apparently this is so. If you are not married to that person, you have no reproductive rights. Even if you were married to that person and you have a divorce, well, a lot of divorced guys find themselves in the same situation. They find themselves in a situation where a court has ordered that they only have X amount of time to spend with their child. Now, we can say, well, what if The man and the woman who are adults, we are all adults here, can't we come to an agreement to say, okay, this is both our children or our child. Why don't we come to an agreement that we would spend a summer here and the child will spend a summer there, something like that? Why do we have to go to court about this? You see, when an agreement can't be reached on matters like this, then that's when you have to go to court to try and reach some kind of agreement or some settlement. And for the most part, when the guys go to court about spending time with their children, guys always seem to come up with the short end of the stick. Unless, of course, it can be proven that this mother is not fit to be a mother. And that takes a lot of proving. You have to move heaven and earth almost to prove that this mother is not fit to have this child. And in some states, sometimes not even that works. So the guy always comes up with the short end of the stick and finds himself ladled with 1 or 2 days to spend time with his child. So that means you have 1 or 2 days to be a father. And I find that baffling because we dump on men on a regular basis. Society dumps on men on a regular basis and accuse them for being lousy men, terrible fathers who don't care about their children. And yet, the men who want to take care of their children, who want to be with their children, who want to be a father, has the law telling them, nope, it can't happen. So what does a guy do? What do you do in a situation like that? It seems like a no-win situation to me. So here's this guy, wants to be a father, wants to take care of his children. The woman is telling, because of spite, because of anger, telling him, you will never see this child. So in court, he's thinking, okay, maybe I can get some kind of reprieve. But the court, based on the law, tells him, well, no, you only have X amount of time to spend with this child. And we wonder why fatherlessness is on the rise. There's so many things causing this whole issue of fatherlessness. Yes, I agree there are guys who don't want to be fathers. There are guys who are lousy fathers. We all concluded that over the past few months, for the past few weeks, we've been talking about the fact that, yes, there are guys who don't want to be fathers, and we've been trying to encourage them to be fathers to their children. But there are guys who want to be fathers to their children. And so they have women on one side telling them, no, I'm angry at you, you go with this other woman, no, you're not going to see this child. And then you have the court or the law on the other side telling them, no, you only have X amount of time to spend with this child. So a man is stuck in the middle. He married or unmarried? Well, unmarried, you have no rights. Married and divorced, well, you still have a problem in some cases, depending on which state you're in and what the law in that state dictates. So the whole point is men have no reproductive rights when it comes to children. And so you're saying, well, that's not true. There are some people who are dismissing this and saying, that's not true. But like you, I didn't know either. I didn't know that was the case. But it is true. Men have no rights. Men have no reproductive rights. And that's the whole issue. You see, a woman can tell you, you meet a woman, you like this woman, you've dated this woman, you went out a couple of times, and both of you seem to be into each other, and you decide, okay, we're going to become intimate. And so before that happens, the woman tells you, look, I am on birth control, I'm taking the pill, I'm doing this, or whatever it is they do for birth control. And the guy says, okay, because you know we don't want children right up and now, right? And she said, yes, I agree. Now, what if she's lying? What if she's telling a lie, and then he sleeps with her, and she becomes pregnant? Now, he can go to her and say, I thought you said you were taking the pill, or I thought you were on birth control, and she tells him, well, I wanted a child. Now, he has no right to tell her to get an abortion. He can't do that. He has no rights to do that. He can't tell her, I don't want this child because we agreed we didn't want children. He can't do that. So whether he wants that child or not, if the woman decides she wants to keep that child, she's going to keep that child, and she's going to have that child. And the same child this man said he didn't want will become his financial responsibility, whether he wanted that child or not. That's just the way it is. Yes, we can argue that, okay, why did he believe her? Why did he believe that she was taking birth control measures? Why didn't he take measures to protect himself? I agree. Yes, you can look at that as well. You can argue that point as well, that he was a fool for trusting her. But whatever the situation is, and you can cry over spilled milk, but the point is the child is there. He didn't want the child, but he's responsible for taking care of that child. Now, on the flip side, if the woman finds out she's pregnant and the guy says, okay, well, we both agreed we didn't want a child, but why don't we keep this child? Why don't we keep the child? Maybe it can help our relationship. Maybe it's a blessing. Maybe it's a blessing from God that we have this child. Why don't we keep the child? And if she doesn't want that child, she have every right to have an abortion without the consent of that man. She can get an abortion without having that man sign any papers to agree to that abortion. If he wants that child, it doesn't matter. She can decide, I don't want this child, and so I'm going to have an abortion, and there's nothing he can do. Let's assume further that she decides, okay, I will have this child, but then after she's had the child, she decides, well, I'm going to put this child up for adoption. And she can do that without any consent from the man, especially if they're not married. She can put that child up for adoption without any consent from him, and it happens on a regular basis in the Western world or around the world, where women put children up for adoption and need no consent from the man who is the father of that child. And that happens. And you're telling me men have reproductive rights? They don't. Now, if she has this baby and she says, okay, I'm going to raise this child, I'm going to keep this baby, right? Now, a woman can raise a child even if that relationship dissolves. They say, okay, we're going our separate ways. The woman say, look, I've been raising this child, I can raise this child by myself. If you want to help, that's fine. You can give me what you can, but the point is, I'm going to raise this child myself. So a woman can raise a child for 15, 16 years. And on the 17th year, she can decide, you know what? I've been doing this on my own for too long. I need some help. So in some states, this woman can go to a court, file for parental support from this man, and the man has to come to court and he has to answer whether or not he's the father of this child. And if he's found to be the father of the child, and the woman said, I want child support, not only will the court grant it to her and he will have to begin paying child support, but in some instances, he will find himself having to pay retroactive child support for the past 16 years. You believe that? Isn't that crazy? The court can order him to make that child support retroactive, and there's nothing he can do about it. Even though they had agreed 15 years or 16 years ago that, hey, I will do my part and you will do your part. This relationship isn't working out, but we will co-parent this child. They agreed on this. But suddenly she wakes up one day and decides, no, I need more help from him, and so I'm going to take him to court. And the court is going to order him to pay child support, and in some cases, the court will say, I'm going to make this retroactive. For the past 16 years, you are paying no child support. And if he has no receipts to prove that he paid, well, he's going to be in a jam. He's going to be in a very serious situation. And that's what's happening in terms of men having no rights, no reproductive rights when it comes to children. But it also can get worse. You say, how could it get any worse? Well, let's look at this scenario. A woman gets pregnant and they had agreed that they didn't want any children. Or it may be a situation where the man wants the child, but the woman is saying, no, I don't want this child. I want to have an abortion. So if he can persuade her to still have that child, and she has the child, and everything seems okay, but after a few weeks or months, she realized, man, this is too much work. I can't deal with this. That woman can take that child to the nearest police station, fire department, or hospital or clinic, and leave that child and tell them that she cannot do it. She cannot raise this child, and they would allow her to leave that child without any commitment from her to financially support that child. Unless that child has been abused and they can prove that that child has been abused by this woman, she can walk away, turn her back, and go. And because she said she cannot do it, she is incapable of raising this child, they would take that child and try and put that child in a foster home, or put that child in child protective services or whatever, but she can walk away scot-free with no responsibility for that child. She doesn't have to go back every month or every week to make sure that child is fed, to make sure that child is clothed. Once she says, I cannot do this, the law tells her, okay, fine, we'll find some place for this child to go, and she can walk away. But a man can't do that. A man can't take his child to these places, to the fire department, and say, I can't do it, I can't raise this child. They would tell him, you are responsible for this child, and you have to raise this child. And even if they take that child, they would tell him, or they would put him in court, and to ensure that he is obligated to financially take care of this child every month up until a certain point, until he reaches 18. Do you see the difference? Do you see the difference in that scenario? But it happens. That's the law. That's the way it goes. Men have no reproductive rights, and women seem to have all the say when it comes to rearing children, having children, and rearing children. It's not fair. It's not right. It's unequal. But it's been happening for years. It's been happening for decades, and I'm wondering, why have men sat back and allowed this to happen and said nothing about it? It's like they just accepted, oh, this is the way it is. There's nothing we can do. Do you realize that women seem to fight more for rights than men? Do you realize that? If the shoe was on the other foot, women would have been out picketing. They would have been on the streets. They would have been protesting, and they would have been standing in front of the courts, in front of Parliament, in front of the judiciary. They'd be fighting for their rights. But men have allowed this inequity to go on for years and decades, and have said nothing about it. They have not raised hell about it. They have not protested about it. Now, I don't know if men individually have written their representatives about this. They've written the Senate or whatever about this, but this has been going on for decades, and men seem to sit back and say, well, that's the way it is for their rights. And I don't understand why it's still this way, because you have men who are lawyers, you have men who are in the judiciary, you have men who make laws in the legislature. But yet this inequality when it comes to reproductive rights persists, and nobody seems to do anything about it. And we're wondering why fatherlessness is prevailing in our society, and we're wondering why women have all these rights and men have no rights when it comes to children, but yet we dump on men on a regular basis and tell them they're lousy, they're terrible because they're not good fathers. But then they have everything against them, stacked against them, and men seem to just leave it alone. They don't care. I'm not saying they don't care, but it's as if they don't fight for their rights. They're not going to fight about it. They're going to say, well, if this is the law, what can I do? And what I don't understand is, knowing all of this, knowing that when it comes to reproductive rights, you have none, men still go there, meet a woman they don't know, trust this woman who says, I am a birth control or whatever, and have a lay down with this woman, take no precaution to protect themselves, and have a child with this woman, and then when the woman takes him to court for this child, he's crying, he's wondering why are you doing this? What can I do? Nothing you can do. But yet men do it on a regular basis. They lay down with women on a regular basis. Some of them they hardly know. It's time that men realize that, hey, this is the situation. What can I do? Am I going to fight for my rights? If we're not going to fight for our rights, then you know what? I am not having children with women who I probably don't trust, or even if it's a woman I don't trust, who can come back years later and put me in court for these children, and I'm screwed. What are you going to do, man? You see, if the law isn't fighting for you, you're going to have to fight for yourself. You're going to have to make better decisions for yourself. You already know the deck is stacked against you, but yet you go and you don't know these women. You just take them for their word. I think it's time for men to start standing up for their rights. It's time to start questioning, well, why are these laws the way it is? Can they be changed? Can we do anything to change it? Start questioning, why is it this way? Why do women have all the rights when it comes to children? If men are to be the leaders of their homes, why does the law, our natural laws, seem to support women more than men? Why is that? You see, I won't blame the courts, because the court role is to just interpret the law and carry out the law. So it's really the law that's a problem. It's really the laws on the books that's the problem that needs to be changed. But who's going to stand up to make sure it's changed? Men don't seem to want to stand up for their rights. They just leave it alone and say that's it. Your DNA runs in those children. Your DNA runs in that child. So you have a right to that child. You have to start standing up for your rights. Someone has to start it. It has to start somewhere. Well, let me know what you think. What do you think? Let me know in the comments, what do you think about the situation? Is there something that can be done? Or this is an impossible situation that can't be fixed? Are you telling me this is the way it is? Laws can't be changed? How did it get like this? How did women get all these rights when it comes to children and men have none? Let me know in the comments. And I'll see you next time right here on this channel.